Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I have another box to open. This is a exciting one in a lot of ways. If you've read the title of this video and probably looked at the thumbnail, you know that this is a Strider. It's an SNG. And I have an interesting history with Strider knives. I've never owned a real Strider knife. I've had a couple of the ProTech versions of Strider knives. And if you watched recently, I had a joke knife, which I purchased, which was a clone of a Strider that was purchased only for a joke, for very cheap, years ago. And if you followed that saga, it met a fitting end. I yeeted it off of a cliff, if you will. Made it look like an accident. It was a whole thing. You can watch the video. I'll link to that video down below so you can see if you want to. But anyways, I've never owned a real Strider SnG. I've handled plenty. I've handled SMFs. I've handled PTs. At California Custom Knife Show, I purchased a gunner grip Strider SnG for somebody who asked me to buy one for them and send it to them. I did that, and so I showed that in a video. And if you watch that video, I did kind of an impressions video of it before I sent it off to the rightful owner. I didn't like that knife. The grip was way too textured. Supposedly it's to be used in gloves, which is not something that I don't use my knives in gloves. It's very rare that I do. If I do have gloves on while using a knife, odds are it's probably a fixed blade. So I'm just not really into like super aggressive texture. So this one I actually just traded for. I traded with my buddy Jake, and he was willing to accept the Spartan Harsey folder, which you may have seen my unboxing on recently, and I said I was going to be doing a full review on. That's not going to happen because I traded it. It's gone. He has it now. I love the Spartan Harsey folder. It's a good knife, really good knife, and I like it quite a lot. But even though that one was really cool with the Damascus blade, and there was a lot going for it that I really liked, the dragons on the scales, it just didn't sit right with me. And as has happened with the Damascus, both in my thought process a lot of times before and with the very limited number of Damascus knives I've ever owned, I just didn't see myself really like using that blade. Damascus isn't like the right option for someone who wants to use their knives, and I don't tend to keep things that are too pretty to use. That's just the way I kind of boil down on knives. You've probably seen that pattern if you've watched me for a long time. So anyways, I traded that knife for this knife, and if there is a Strider out there that has a good chance of being a knife that I will enjoy and want to keep and use long term, yada yada yada, it's this one. Because this one is, if I butcher these terms, I'm sorry Strider fanboys. I'm not big on Strider. It's not that I hate the knives or that I'm not someone who always wants to drag Strider through the mud or anything like that. I just traded for one, right? Traded a very nice knife for it. So this one, I think, is called the CC, which is like the concealed carry version. I think that's where they came up with that lettering. So it's smooth G10, from what I understand, from what I've seen, and it's a little bit slimmer, I think, which for me sounds like a good thing on a Strider. Alright, in typical Strider fashion, it's also just in a baggie, because they don't do boxes at Strider. It's taped in here, which is a good thing from the guy who shipped it. That way it wasn't bouncing around in this box the whole time. Let me get it out of here. Alright. It's out. So, here's the knife. It's in a Ziploc bag. Although, I thought there was a different clip on it. Maybe I didn't trade for the clip. Either that or someone took it out of the box. Anyways, here is the Strider CC SnG, or SnG CC, I don't know how it goes. You can see we've got the kind of flame ammo lock side, which I'm not usually a huge fan of. I do feel like it's the right finish to go with on a Strider, however. The more I've thought about it, I'm okay with it on this knife. This one definitely feels slimmer than that GG one that I had, although the blade stock is definitely still normal thickness, I think. Again, not an expert on the knives in general. Let's see if it Spidey flicks. Okay, it did it. It wasn't like the most crisp one ever, but that worked. This one is in CPM 20CV. And I've always liked several things about Strider knives. I love the ergos. The ergos are great, especially on here where I don't have a scale that's trying to eat my hand. So the ergos are great. And then I love the kind of indexing I get on the blade. I actually have right here my ProTech variant of the Strider SnG. So you can see, I'll probably do a comparison video between the two of these, but proportionally these ought to be the same. They're the same design, it's just one is made by ProTech as a button auto, and then this one is obviously the real Strider. So I've liked these knives enough to have several of the ProTech versions, mostly because of the ergos and the way that when I choke up I feel really controlled over the blade. I find that they just work quite well. On the real Striders, I have found I've held more that had lock stick than that didn't. I've seen a lot of examples of some lock rock, like this one definitely has some blade play in it. Maybe that can be tightened out, but right now there's definitely a little bit of side to side. They just don't seem to be all that precise compared to many other knives. And maybe they're not going for precise. I don't know. But they're just interesting to me. This pivot does feel a little loose, so maybe that's why I'm feeling play. Oh yeah, now it's gone. I literally just hand tightened it down to where there's no blade play anymore. But yeah, what I look for in knives a lot of the time, I like actions that are fun to play with. Striders don't really have that. But there is a lot to them that's compelling to me. So, anyways, this is my new Strider. I'm going to be giving a proper chance to the Strider. This one has been used and carried a good amount, so I'm not afraid of putting this in my pocket, carrying it, and using it, and seeing how it does. So I'm going to be carrying this and doing a proper review on it, because I never have with a real Strider yet. And the timing is actually good as well, because I have the ProTech version that I just picked up, and this ProTech Strider SnG, this is the operator version. This one I got to carry and use, and to finally be the one of these that I put in my pocket, because the last one I got was way too pretty for it. So I will kind of simultaneously be experiencing these knives, and then that comparison ought to be interesting to see which one I end up liking more. But this one does have hollow grind, so the blade profile is definitely different, and obviously it's different in construction. This one is manually operated and not auto, although I gotta like wrist it to get it to deploy. I don't know. Strider knives, their goals seem to be a little different than what I like in knives. But there is something about them that seems to draw me in a little bit. So maybe this will be the time where I finally embrace, like, hey, this breaks some of my rules, but I'm okay with it, and I actually like the knife even though it does that. Or maybe I definitively find out, like, you know what? The real Striders just aren't for me. And I'm open to either one. I don't need to love this knife. I'm also not like set on disliking it. So I'm going to give it a fair shake. We're going to see how it does, and we'll go from there. So anyway, here's my new Strider SnG CC, I think is how you call it, in 20CV. I do love the spec on this knife. The fact that I've got the green kind of polished G10. I like the lock side. I like that the hardware is all black. I like that it's a hollow grind. I dig this in a number of ways. And so if any Strider stands a chance of being the one that I like, this I think is it. So we'll see how it goes. But anyways, thanks for checking it out with me. I'm excited to have it out of the box and go ahead and start putting it in my pocket. And I'll check in with you guys on the next one. So thanks for watching.